years ago.
It means something that's also different is Donald Trump and his team are more prepared to assume the presidency this time. We're already hearing, murmurings of who they would be thinking about putting into positions of power, who would be taking the reins on some of that.
Project 2025, baby.
Extremely important because I think we're all bracing for a second Trump term to be radically different from his first term. And I think that's not just even in the appointments, it's in the makeup of the Senate. A lot of these Senate candidates rode Trump's coattails to victories to higher than expected margin victories in some of these states. So this
honestly,
is a Senate or even a House Speaker like we had with Paul Ryan in 2017, who are sort of skeptical of him and want to try to rein him in.
And new leadership in the Senate.
The Republican House Speaker, if he remains the House Speaker, has very much tied himself to Trump and his agenda. There has been a lot of work during this campaign with Trump and his various allies in Congress and in the Republican think tanks and figuring out what they're.
Look, I'm amazed we made it through last night without any issues.
Of who's going to be in various appointments. I don't think this time we're going to see Trump come in and appoint someone like John Kelly, who will try to restrain him for a year, or go through 4 or 5 chiefs of staff before he finally lands on one that just lets him sort of run free with whatever his impulses are. I think this time Trump sort of infrastructure is very prepared to come in to try to get rid of a lot of sort of nonpartisan civil government. They have a pretty detailed plan for how they want to eviscerate parts of the federal government.
Definitely not in her playbook.
And the White House, I don't think you're going to see anyone who's there to try to rein in some of Trump's worst impulses or try to sort of hew to traditional Republican themes, whether it's on foreign policy.
Maynard is very upset about what has transpired over the last 24 hours.
People who have been remade in his image, including his vice president, J.D. Vance.
Like, seriously, like he's having a shit fit.
Go in and probably be able to execute on parts of their agenda, especially if they have unified control of Congress, much, much faster than they were the first time. There won't sort of be these fits and starts that we saw in the first term.
You've got to wonder, Flash, how long are they going to let Trump be a madman?
This time, the people that are being talked about for high-level cabinet positions and White House positions are all people who know exactly who Donald Trump is, who largely stuck by him after January 6th.
They'll probably try to make it through a year at least.
We're watching for Kamala Harris to come and address the crowd there at Howard University. She's a graduate of Howard, and this is where her election watch party was held last night. She didn't come out and address the crowd last night. Cedric Richmond instead came out in the early hours of the morning. I believe it was Ron.
It was bullshit she didn't come out last night. She should have.
Coming to talk to her supporters and to the nation today. Since then, we know that she has called Donald Trump to concede, and she's talked about this
Maynard's just a dick.
Of power, a return to the norms, part of her pledge, but also a real signal to her supporters and to the world about how she thinks this should all be handled. You can see in the crowd there some Howard students, some folks wearing Howard.
Yeah, Flash, you've got a point there.
We saw Nancy Pelosi, and we have reporting from our
in order for J.D. Vance to run for 2 terms after assuming the presidency, it has to be after the first 2 years of Trump's
the DNC chair.
second term.
We saw the D.C. Mayor Bowser there in the crowd. Rhonda, what does this moment mean to the people gathered there today?
Well, they want to hear from the person that they've been supporting for the last few weeks, and she's going to have to.
It's really just a few weeks. I mean, it's just the campaign's over.
It is a few weeks.
Yeah, and she's going to have to address these people who had so much energy, so much hope that this would turn out.
Seriously, feel sorry for her.
I think, as Yasmin was talking about control in Congress right now, it appears with the Senate.
So many things were out of her control.
That also is sort of insult to injury for a lot of Democrats right now, that there won't be as many checks on a second Donald Trump administration. The only check that we're still possibly looking for is perhaps the House going Democrat. But even then, that would mean that there is going to be a lot of tension.
And that's
Democrats won't be able to get much done.
That's a long shot at this point.
And to bring forward, as you said, candidates who he would probably not have gotten forward in that first.
I think Aileen's just being sarcastic.
He also has the Supreme Court also at his back. So all things seem to be going for Donald Trump, and that also is an insult to injury for folks like, Nancy Pelosi, who has been there, who led the impeachment.
I mean, I didn't want to think that, but
when he was president. So
something is off.
By
that too.
Someone who was.
But it could just be explained by
Yeah.
a bunch of stupid people that don't normally vote voted.
Court, which I think could further embolden him.
James, we're
That seems
seeing
to be
coverage
the
made on stage here, so I may have to interrupt you. But let's talk about the people in the crowd and
seems to be the indication.
what it means for them to be here at this moment.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. The person who's coming onto the stage now, she's wearing one of the retro Kamala Harris for the People shirts from her 2019 short-lived presidential campaign. But I will tell you that in the run-up to Tuesday, it was one of the hottest tickets in town. Every Democrat wanted to be at the rally where she was going to potentially declare victory because they were all angling for jobs.
Yes, apparently
Harris administration. So there was a lot of posturing over who
Trump is going to end up with less votes than he got in 2020,
White House,
but the same percentage of Republicans.
worthy that Tom Perez, for example, was invited to come to this event and was given a VIP seat.
And that Harris
Will not be
didn't
president.
match
Of course, these votes are
Biden's
still
totals
there, and we'll never know.
and lost about a percentage of Democrats.
We're still watching some of these race returns come in. James, talk to us about what is still outstanding.
So the big outstanding votes are still in the Southwest, Arizona and Nevada. It does really feel like Republicans have an advantage in Nevada in the Senate race, but we're
It
still
is
waiting
neck and neck in
some
the
ballots. There were some
the
ballots
Nevada
that sort of
Senate race.
tabulated by one of the counties, so that's led to some adjustments. It's made it too soon for us to call either of these Senate races. There's only about 60% of the vote in from Arizona, and Pennsylvania, as I explained earlier in our show, remains too close to call. In the House, it could end up taking a few weeks. California is slow. You're allowed to mail your ballot in, and it can arrive up to 5 days after the election as long as it was postmarked by Election Day. So in some House races that could be close, that could determine control of the lower chamber.
There was a lot of fuckery going on. The voter roll purges.
Who is going to be in the majority, but it does feel like you'd rather be Republicans than Democrats when you look at the seats that are still out and the votes that are still out. And that will obviously go a long way to determine just how much of his agenda Donald Trump will be able to advance.
That's the worryingest part.
Reporting from our colleague
Quesadilla, mass deportations.
For a moment there in the crowd, so we're.
What happens when they do start
get moving?
trying to round up people
shortly, but. We'll listen for Kamala Harris to give a speech that will likely go down in history and go down in memory. Hillary Clinton's concession speech certainly did. She also spoke to her supporters the day after Donald Trump defeated her in 2016. Rhonda, are the women who supported Hillary Clinton.
Well, we did well in the stock market today. Fucking tip your favorite streamer.
Watching to see how they react in terms of mobilizing, running for office. We saw a huge march on Washington in the aftermath of the Donald Trump victory back in 2016. It's a different moment now, and people are also more sort of weathered and perhaps hardened in both good and bad ways to this experience.
You know, I think that that's something that we'll see a clearer view as it goes on with the Trump transition, as we know what type of people he chooses to head up agencies, how much people feel like they are being threatened or their rights being threatened. That is an interesting question. I remember writing a story, actually.
I would say if you have investments, pull them out by mid-year next year for sure.
It did energize a lot of women.
I'd say things are gonna ride the wave. The wave's gonna go for a few months, right?
Women in rural districts across the country to vote and take over seats at the local level and also at the congressional level. So, you know, when people do feel that their rights are at stake and they're in danger, that does mobilize them. But that will be something interesting that we should be watching as we get a sense of what this Trump administration looks like.
What will you
No telling when, but I wouldn't trust it under Trump very long.
The biggest thing is to see how Democrats,
especially as here's
blame
something that I've meant to touch on the shows in the last couple of weeks.
I haven't heard a lot of blame placed at Kamala.
We could be on the verge of another pandemic, and a much deadlier one this time.
Biden for dragging out this process and not allowing Democrats.
We're seeing a lot of human
And then also just to see who we start seeing in terms of appointments for a Trump White House.
Infections of bird flu. We're seeing cows that are possibly infected with bird flu.
Trump administration, like Rhonda said earlier, with not a lot.
We have confirmation that pigs
Who does Trump think he
have contracted bird flu, and if pigs are contracting it,
names floated for key agency positions.
makes it far more likely that humans,
what Democrats' plans are to
bird-to-human contact.
They're going to start looking ahead to the 2026
human-to-human spread is possibly already occurring.
Sort of optically interesting and significant is that Kamala Harris will preside over the certification of this next election, which of course was the source of so much controversy because Mike Pence chose to do
if you've got
thing and certify
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the head of the FDA,
right at the Capitol. Once again, Kamala Harris is trying to return. Can you describe the crowd?
We are a little bit behind. Let me go live here.
In the air here, Libby, but the crowd has really filled.
There's Tim Walz.
And has gotten close. I was.
Is it Gabby Giffords?
Following it here to where it was, sort of at its peak level last night.
I just saw Ella Emhoff. She's there. Other family members and relatives. You can see her brother embracing her. The stepchildren.
I feel sorry for Tim Walz too.
And we just saw on Saturday Night Live.
His political career is over.
Riffing off of Kamala. They tried to inject joy into this, Yasmin. Did it translate in terms of the exit polls and what we heard from people?
No, I think it clearly didn't. I think because the exit polls showed it was not just one or two groups, but this sort of broad gains for Trump compared to.
I would assume
that, maybe
it's over. Shelley, good afternoon. Here we go.
There's Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, addressing her supporters at Howard University. A challenging moment for the woman who many Democrats and independents had hoped could become the first woman president. Instead, she has conceded to Donald Trump, but this is a moment for her to thank her supporters and talk to the nation. Let's listen.
I turned down the Beyonce there.
Good afternoon. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're delaying the inevitable.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love.
Yeah, because it's not you that's going to suffer the consequences.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Yep, she pretty much goes back to obscurity after today.
As we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
Though she may end up on MSNBC or have a podcast or something like that.
Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you. I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran. And
you probably shouldn't be.
And the way we ran it over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
Do we?
Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results.
Let it out, guys. Let it out.
As much as any other distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny.
It's cathartic. Let it out.
Trust
Being serious.
At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
It honestly looks like that issue might have been the
opportunity, for fairness,
the issue that the election turned on.
People, a fight for the
I don't think we have enough data yet.
The ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight.
It's not a good thing because, like, Netanyahu is celebrating. He feels that Trump is going to give him free reign.
The fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
And seeing a neighbor. By always using our strength to lift people up, to fight.
What happens to the coconut graphic? Does it get retired?
All people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work. But like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
Oh, I slept. I didn't make it all night.
Time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times.
About 9 a.m. this morning, but we knew for sure at 3.
Harm and great pain. And yet, found with
I might have even said it, 2:30 or
the
something?
strength and the
Whenever he won Pennsylvania, I'm like, that's it. It's over.
to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars.
A brilliant billion of stars.
The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. HU. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Get it out, guys. Get it out. Let her have it. I personally don't think it's so much her fault. I think it's Joe Biden's fault. I mean, I'm trying to look on the bright side. She said she lost. She said she called Trump to concede.
The moment Kamala Harris pledged a peaceful transfer of power because, of course, she still serves.
It's Joe Biden specifically.
Saw tears from a lot of people in the crowd at Howard University, including from her running mate, Tim.
If Joe Biden had not ran
Rhonda, what does
open primary,
for Vice President Harris and for America?
even if Harris had won that primary, she would have been a much stronger candidate.
Very moving speech. To
She probably would have won, though.
And, you know, it seems as if she did strike that balance of speaking about the future, not only her own future, but also the future of the people there in attendance. I
mean, I can't leave you guys on that note, so you know you're getting a police chase, right?
She said she does concede, but she does not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. That's pretty forward.
There's apparently a major gas leak near the Georgia state capitol.
After this election. She also said this is a time we need to roll up our sleeves. I think one of the more...
We're going to do a real show tonight. I figured, like, I can't take tonight off.
We're about to enter
People
very true.
Looking for election results and stuff, and stories revolving around the election.
The sky with light, and she left on a very optimistic note, more optimistic than perhaps many of her supporters feel right now. I also think, you know, her shout out to young people, knowing that they fueled a lot of...
Shut the fuck up, Warlord. That should be a new t-shirt as well. Shut the fuck up, Warlord.
Party. She said sometimes the fight takes a while. You know, that was a part of her...
Tammy Baldwin officially winning in Wisconsin.
She's saying sometimes the fight...
I don't know if that was declared earlier when I saw it, but she was up, and I was surprised.
It probably had a lot of weight to a lot of Democrats who might have been listening when she said...
Yes, thank you to Michael Wolff for releasing your Jeffrey Epstein tape saying that Donald Trump was my best friend 3 nights before the election.
Why that's so striking is because that is not... She's speaking to a person where that did not happen when he lost, and may have not happened had he lost this time around. So that
no, it wouldn't have.
The weight that a lot of Democrats and a lot of her supporters, remember, she also had disaffected Republicans who wanted to see her administration go forward. She had independents. That is something that a lot of people are, you know, just isn't...
Fucking Elon is going to be in his administration. RFK is going to be... It's going to be a bunch of chuckle fucks. This is going to be insane.
Howard University, JM, what is it like there as the crowd starts to filter out and as Kamala Harris says thank you and goodbye to the 2020 election?
Joe Rogan might be the motherfucker's press secretary. Who knows?
Here, they were hanging on every word of her speech there, and there was.
I'm trying to look at it on the bright side. It's good for the troll patrol.
Of optimism.
How many people rode the Trump wave to fame in the content creator space?
Applause throughout, and you could sense kind of...
I didn't want to do it.
Uplifting vibe, especially towards the end of the speech, among the folks behind me. The VIP section, which is right behind.
The Battle of Possum, not long. If the first administration's any indication.
Pelosi, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, and others, they were on their...
It was a revolving door the entire time, and it will probably be worse this time.
It's notable, Libby, because we've been talking throughout about...
There is the possibility that the Heritage Foundation just runs the presidency. He plays golf the whole time. He got himself out of jail. Maybe that's what it is.
See, not only where she's an alumna, but where this is occurring in front of the Frederick Douglass Memorial Hall, right over my left shoulder here. And this is something where she wrote in her memoir.
Kind of turned him down because of the music's really loud. We're going to do a police chase. And we're going to come back for usual show. Oh God, this one's not a high-speed chase. Once again, you see the results on the bottom of your screen. Big red blocks for the Senate. Gaza and Ukraine done for. I think southern Lebanon gets taken by a Netanyahu government. Netanyahu, probably his get out of jail free card as well. Even if he gets removed from power in Israel, leads to the U.S. has safe haven under a Trump administration.
More of a neighborhood, a bit more of a residential area. Of course, the concern.
We have a Mustang chase.
A possible foot bail or anything like that running away. It's just right now you're sort of.
And it's a slow speed.
Perhaps that
slow speed chase.
It doesn't look, as Leslie, you mentioned, that there's any sort of attempt to pin the vehicle in, but you wonder if that might change whether or not we get closer to the 405 there.
Yeah, and you can see that CHP really trying to get behind this driver here.
Why are they getting, why not go around?
They'll be giving up sometime soon because this is going very slow at this hour. I can't make it out there, but
I would like to tell you that the anger just said that this is probably ending soon. This is a hour-long chase.
looks like maybe that isn't a license plate. I could be wrong here, but it's not giving.
What's her balls?
Okay, it looks like maybe it's. You can't make it out. It's hard to tell. Maybe it's one of those specialized license plates that you can't really make out.
Smokey, buddy,
Yeah,
why are you
car,
being wild?
Going so incredibly slow. It looks like it's a convertible there. Am I right on that?
Yes, it does look like a convertible. And just within the frame of your screen, you'll notice the amount of CHP vehicles.
You have to work hard to go that slow in a Mustang.
Line, essentially, and leading back even more so to then another.
Like you just barely tap the gas, they go 20 miles an hour.
Despite that, it's just one very slow, seemingly easy and simple pursuit. It is affecting on a multitude of levels a lot of different people, particularly those who are trying to get somewhere. And right there, you see the exit. It looks like you're well on your way to getting to the 405 southbound.
Yeah, that's where this is now going to lead here. But yeah, it's interesting.
This is apparently a kidnapping suspect. We're pursuing a kidnapping suspect.
They have completely blocked off the southbound lanes of the 405. It looks like at this point, some of those CHP cars, take a look to the left, riding right next to, oh, no. now we're to the.
Oh my God! Why don't you just go around them and block them in?
It's hard to see here because there's so many different formations of CHP patrol cars, but it looks like these cars here are leading, and they're just on the tail as that car continues to move with a possible kidnapping suspect inside.
And perhaps that is one of the many reasons why you wouldn't see perhaps another spike strip or maybe
anonymously. Welcome in. Good afternoon.
For that car to sort of give out in order to give this pursuit an end. But right now, that all we can do is wait. Given the fact that that car, and you obviously want to play it safe, if there is a kidnapping in progress right now, you have to take into account somebody else involved in this as well. But at the moment,
simply don't know those details right now. We don't know who is inside that vehicle, if someone may be in danger. But you can see that CHP is being aggressive in trying to get this pursuit to come to a stop, to get that suspect out. This is definitely not something that they would give up on, especially given that we know spike strips were already deployed. The vehicle is continuing to.
Do they not have tires already?
What we believe is that front driver's side tire. It looks like that is completely gone at this point. But it's always so just mind-blowing that these vehicles can continue to move with one less tire.
And honestly, there's no other thought in terms of what more can be done at the moment, and especially considering there's that second line right there of CHP vehicles right there. You count 5 on your screen, and then you know there's those in front, and then even more so behind on top of it. Just dealing with traffic on a Saturday night, and then you're wondering what the next step is going to be as this car.
Bernie tore him a new asshole.
You wonder if it's finally going to pull off to the side, or if it's going to take an exit, or if it's or if the driver's finally going to realize that there's really not much else that he or she
can do
in this situation, given the fact that they are, for lack of a better word,
people who made under 40 grand and people who made over 400 grand.
We've often caught ourselves in
And the people
pursuits
in
where-
that hole.
Yeah, just the
50
tag,
grand to
and where you
400
see
grand.
vehicles try
Trump
and,
won.
maneuver endlessly.
Interesting.
25 to 40 miles per hour through a particular neighborhood that the person is familiar
take
with.
a look.
But
It looks like, am I correct to say no? It looked like that driver's
moment.
side door opened, but I think we're just noticing it as it
Seems to be
turns,
getting a little
maybe
bit
the
more
vehicle.
speed to it.
But you could see how wobbly it is, right? It's maneuvering right now, especially towards the front.
And outside of any other, it doesn't look, at least from our perspective, and granted it is dark, so it's hard to see. Yeah, it does again look like it's just that front left tire, no other damage that you can quite make out, but just the way as it looks like we're coming underneath an overpass here briefly, so we'll wait for the vehicle to come out the other end. But to wrap up the earlier point is that in other cases you see, especially when we have pursuits on the freeway where you're going at exceedingly high speeds, and the concern there is ramming into somebody else.
And it's weird because we've seen more small businesses started under Biden than any other presidency.
Whereas in this particular case, the dynamics have changed to the point where here, this is the wide scope of it all. And
CHP has completely shut
Right.
down what looks to be a good portion of that 605
What's up, Zon?
South
We're
405
currently watching. We just watched
South interchange there.
Kamala
It looks like they pushed traffic
give her
back
concessionalist
quite a
speech.
bit
Yeah,
now
significantly.
as the vehicle
Now,
continues to
topping it off with a good old-fashioned
here.
police chase.
But
This
the
happened
good
about
thing
3
here
days ago
is that
in L.A.
happening on our freeways, which means it's all CHP
This is a
jurisdiction.
kidnapping
which means
suspect.
that sergeant that's leading this pursuit is able to talk to, the sergeant that may be manning the 405
That's
and let them know, hey, that's where we're
another
headed.
thing, M.
Start
Lord.
to
Here's
clear the
what's
roadways
going to
for us.
happen.
And that becomes a lot easier when
Yeah.
you're going at this
In
speed.
February, after Trump has taken
It
office,
actually
Speeds are
makes
helping here,
tactical maneuvering and management a lot easier, considering that you're not dealing with someone who is going 50, 60, 70 plus miles
Trump
per hour.
takes
You can see
office,
some of those CHP
you'll
cars
look around, say crime is at historic lows.
maybe coming out the
We
other
produce
side.
more oil and natural gas than
Right now,
ever.
because we kind of lost track of the vehicle going under
Yeah.
those overpasses just visually, but we know they're in that area
Inflation
right now.
is back down to pre-pandemic
Essentially
levels.
has a handle on this. They know exactly where the vehicle is. Again,
Border
this is,
crossings are
this
back
is a
to
pursuit. If you're
2019
joining us,
levels.
that started on the 5605 interchange going south on the 605.
We did it, y'all.
It looks like
We made America great again.
405
And take credit for everything that
and,
Joe Biden
the
did.
car, the vehicle that you were looking at going maybe somewhere between 5 to 10 miles per hour, incredibly slowly, was spike stripped at some point, losing perhaps.
Oh yeah, the stock market.
left
He's going
tire
to claim responsibility for the stock market
And
too.
that
Just as soon as
suspect
just as soon as he is in
Again, don't
office,
know
he's going to
if
claim
that
responsibility
person
for
has a
all the
weapon or not.
things
So these are fluid details, a fluid situation that we are trying to figure out.
currently happening.
That is
Manufacturing
moving
has come
rather
back to
slowly, but we're gonna
the
try to
U.S.
maneuver our
Wasn't the CHIPS
helicopter
Act
here.
passed by Joe Biden? No.
Just a word to our viewers, it is cloudy out there. There are some low clouds.
Was it the American Recovery Act? No. It's
SkyCal has
just Trump got into office. Manufacturing came back. That's what happened. Mark my word, that's exactly what they're going to do. He'll be in office like a month. I made America great again. I'm going to go play golf. Did the suspect take the access road? Is that where we're at right now?
Just those CHP vehicles, and it's
We're
right
gonna go
there.
through. Yeah, it's right
in
there.
the-
We're gonna go through this tunnel here, so
Right.
it's gonna be maybe quite a moment before we're able to.
We're
see
going to go
it
through this
from
tunnel very
out the
slowly.
other end because this thing is moving 5 miles per hour at this point.
And one of the other questions here, if this is where
If that.
vehicle is about to come out of too, we pointed out so far in the last 15 minutes how much traffic has been affected. That's been behind on the 605 right now, and as we transition here to the 405,
605 Super
screen as
Podcast.
the
The
vehicle pops up right
mothership.
there in the center of your screen. There's even more traffic to consider, and of course traffic is always top of our minds here in Southern California on any day of the week, particularly on a weekend night if you're trying to get somewhere. But here, would be my next question as to, okay, now you have this wave of traffic coming in on the left side of your screen, and how
Yeah.
that's going to affect. We'll see if CHP tries
Looks
to
like-
wall this suspect
Yeah.
off here to the side, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
And they really do have to be careful because, again, we don't know the details of who may be in that vehicle. There may be someone inside, which is why we haven't seen a pit maneuver just yet. Slow speeds are better for those pits, but you know, that vehicle being only possibly running on 3 good tires, if not less, that could also play into why they are not deciding to make any more aggressive moves. But as you mentioned, Gio, they are moving to close off the 405 there as vehicles have to just get out the way. I'm sure wondering what is happening. If you're from Southern California, you know this is a pursuit.
And typically these pursuits would be whizzing by you if you ever do get caught in these situations. But this one, of course, going incredibly slowly. But you saw those CHP vehicles start to shift over to the left. But there it is, the car. You very much see it wobbling right now.
Yeah, you can really see that front tire down to its rim. Take a look at that. It is hitting hard on that pavement. You know, that driver, it is loud in that vehicle. You wonder if the other tire may look the same, if they were able to successfully spike strip both sides there.
It's hard to tell. Obviously, the indication right now, I mean, we can guarantee that it is that front left one, but that also, you pointed out, it is a convertible, looks like a Mustang, at least from our perspective. But, you know,
pretty sure it's a Mustang.
Obviously are going there. It's just that this vehicle is moving. Obviously, we're zoomed in, but you can tell it is moving very, very slowly as we now transition onto the 405.
Yeah, it looks like it's speeding up, that this driver is trying to speed up just a bit, but I'm sure that
trying,
just not able to go any faster without having
definitely attempting it, not succeeding.
There. What I'm surprised is that we're not seeing any sparks at this point because it looked
brief,
like a little spark there because you can see that rim is hitting the concrete, and if you're going,
especially if you try to speed up
10,
and you're
12
establishing even
miles per hour,
more friction, that's what ends up leading to
all those,
you know, potential fire, sparks, all of that, of course. But there's only so much you can do with a vehicle that is affected to this degree.
Yeah, Gio, this is the first time we're getting a look at possibly inside that vehicle. You can make out a slight silhouette there. It's really hard to see given it's so dark in this area. But it looks like you can see at least, you know, the driver a bit, but you can't really make out anyone else at this point.
No, and all we can tell so far about the vehicle, aside from it's a convertible, it looks like it's just simply a 2-door coupe. So there's not that much space inside one of those cars to begin with. So at most you might be able to have 1, if not 2 more people in there. But again, we don't know the exact number. We know it almost looks now as if it's slowing down even more so. But just as we zoom out here on the 405,
if slowing down even more so is even possible.
The response by
I'm gonna go recharge, light one up, tip one back.
Vehicles in your screen right now, but we can tell you from just the last 10-15 minutes, it is a lot more behind and a very significant response to this situation right now.
Yeah,
if I can find my lighter.
What, 6 to 10 lane freeway, the 405, depending on what area you're driving down. CHP has completely shut down traffic.
It's in my pocket.
Just to keep people safe.
Keep them going. Don't let it end while I'm out.
To come to a stop, to come to an end there. And at this point, it is just not happening. And looks like the vehicle starts to slow down a bit as we're seeing it right now. And then occasionally, again, the way I describe it is just mind-blowing that it can keep going and they will start to speed up to about 12 to 14 miles per hour. And
there's a traffic slowdown there on the 405 from what we were pointing out when the suspect made the transition from the 605 onto the 405, but you'd notice it there. Now backed up, and it's something that has been affecting a multitude of people now just in the last 15 to 20 minutes or so. And now you're looking back at the vehicle in pursuit right now. It's speeding up just a little bit again there. It's almost like in these short bursts it'll pick up before, and obviously it's hard to tell exactly what the driver is thinking, but given the situation and given the fact that it's just one tire at least that has been spiked, affecting the vehicle, you can only go so fast before you then start to lose even more control of the car.
Yeah.
Sparks start to come up from that tire, and then you're talking about a potential worse situation there if anything were to happen. But then the car starts to slow down just a little bit more as you take a look at it here. And you're caught in a cycle of what is a very slow pursuit, but one that we've noticed CHP be on top of the entire time because there's nowhere else for this person to go. That spotlight, you see it moving there just a little bit, has been on top of it the entire time. Yeah. And as we try to zoom in here to see if we can get a better look at the driver.
It's hard to make out. You're seeing some sort of movement inside the vehicle, right? It looks like that driver is making some sort of movement with their hands, now speeding up to 20 miles per hour. When you have a tire on its rim, this is going to be very, very difficult for this driver to keep that steering wheel straight. I'm surprised, again, we're not seeing any more sparks, especially because they picked up so much speed. Again, this person wanted for possible kidnapping. Now, we don't know details on the situation of that kidnapping or where it may have occurred, but we do know that this pursuit started at the 605 interchange. And take a look, Gio, this person now trying to get off
the side.
And really making a brazen maneuver there, going
person trying to get off
quickly
as we keep
to
an
the
eye
right
on
side.
this, because we're losing sight underneath the overpass there. Now there's the vehicle.
We've seen that in a chase before.
You live in sexual anarchy.
Patrick, can you hear us?
Okay, we're going to work on getting Patrick
But
here.
in the meantime, you see now after that very quick maneuver by the suspect, all of a sudden now you're seeing CHP inch closer and closer to this vehicle.
We're going to try to get
Thank you, Manzura,
retired
for
sergeant
entertaining the chat.
one more time. Patrick, can you hear us?
Are they going to try to get him around? Around him?
I can.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As
This
we
could have
continue
ended
to monitor
forever
this very
ago.
slow-moving pursuit, but dangerous nonetheless. Are you hearing anything about what this suspect could have been involved in? We know possible kidnapping, but we're not getting any more details on that.
No, that's all I'm hearing also. I haven't heard if it was an armed kidnapping. I haven't heard where the kidnapping victim is. I haven't heard any.
That's why I think they think there might be a victim inside the car, which is why they haven't hit maneuvered
Given
it
the
yet.
situation now, obviously, Patrick, when we deal with pursuits, you're used to.
I mean, it's ripe for one. It's not going very
70 plus, 80
fast.
plus miles per hour,
We're
especially
right in the middle of a wide open
freeway, like we've
highway.
been seeing here on the 605 and the 405. So, what is typically the protocol, the sort of tactical plan when it comes to dealing a situation? Because if I was watching from home, I'd be thinking, why not try to cut off or corner a suspect that is moving so slowly? What tends to be the plan in a situation like this?
Well, the biggest thing and what it could be, based on the number of units that are behind it, and how they are treating it, is that it could be an armed.
They were talking about
kidnapping
spikes from the
suspect.
wheel when I left, but I was
So
like,
when
no,
somebody
that's
is armed, the last thing you want them to be doing is looking.
not really going to
back
happen
or
at the
directly
speed they're
in your
going at.
direction. So if they were to do some type of pit maneuver, anything like that, it puts other officers in danger. So this is like a dream scenario for this type of pursuit. They have the vehicle almost completely disabled at a speed that nobody can get, injured in terms of the suspect.
Avalon, welcome in.
The officers, and then they will just get all of their resources ready, which is, it's been going on long enough where they're almost probably all there, and then they will ride this until the end, until the car is completely disabled, and handle it from there.
It's pretty incredible, though, Sergeant, when these vehicles continue to move, even though they are at slow speeds. I know you said this is really the best scenario for CHP and law enforcement, but when we see this, I mean, it just blows my mind every time we see these vehicles that they're able to continue chugging along, and these pursuit suspects just aren't going to give up despite going 5 miles per hour.
Yeah, and in on this vehicle, it's hard to say so far, but it looks like the rear wheel, at least on the driver's side, it still has air. So I think it's probably, if it's a Mustang, I can't really tell for sure. If it's a Mustang, then it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So, all of its horsepower and everything is still coming from the rear end. So he's just pushing it and just riding on those rims. So until the rims disintegrate and everything falls apart, this car could just keep going at this speed for a while. And as we saw, a minute ago, he got it up to about 25 again. So, he could be just riding this out. He could be talking on the phone, calling, people trying to get some help or whatever he needs to do.
Get some help.
Yeah, they got, as you saw, they had the freeway completely shut down. They'll probably shut down the other side if it comes to a halt. And then they just they have it in the perfect situation with nothing around it except police officers, and they'll handle it from there.
Yeah, Patrick, we can tell you from our perspective, it certainly looked like a Mustang when we zoomed in a little bit earlier. You could make out the the logo and the icon.
I
there
could
in the center
put them on the line with me.
But to your point there about traffic, is that we've noticed
if we could get if I could get big
such
enough as a streamer,
and in a way, as you mentioned,
to where we can get
in such a controlled fashion,
police pursuit suspect to call into the show,
backed up as well. It seems like you would rather
I could die a happy
in a
man.
situation like this if you had to, versus in
that's all I want out of life.
And we've seen pursuits happen in neighborhoods where someone will just keep driving 40 miles an hour through intersections, through red lights, etc., and just kind of keep it going. Whereas with this one, it's kind of an open. Just
Sky Comet, welcome back in.
And it almost looks they're going so slow.
Here's the tough part though, is I wouldn't try to talk them down. I'd try to talk them into doing something really
easier.
stupid.
You know, they're at this point.
No, I think it's just a shitty looking road. It is wet.
Which could happen at any second. Where in the
We're
other
outside
one,
of LA.
you're making decisions, you know, based on what is the crime. Is the person armed? Are we going to continue this pursuit? Are the officers in danger? You know, or is the citizens in danger? Where in this situation, it's just all about they have the information in terms of the kidnapping, so they know if the person was armed. They know, you know, if the victim's in the car or if the victim's been dumped off. They have all the information, so that's what they're preparing all of their resources for. And as you can see, you know, right now,
that's exactly what I would say to him, and you know I would.
With a wall on one side and all of their officers.
But like I felt bad.
Just a perfect
I was talking about how I hated when
could be getting other
chases ended unspectacularly and the suspect just gives up at one time, and then I watched that woman die.
It's all about safety. You know, it's all about safety for the suspect, and
that kind of scarred me, guys.
It truly is, and I know we're.
I felt really bad about that.
It's incredible to see that wall of CHP officers.
And I mean, it was like 5 minutes after I said
you can see
that.
plenty of people stopping, staring.
I feel like we've watched slower, Sky Comet.
And wondering what is happening. So it's going to affect traffic on both sides.
We've had a few different slow speed chases.
Into the suspect's vehicle here, you can get a better
This is about
look
the
at
slowest you
just
could
how
drive a
damaged those two
Mustang.
front tires are, and it looks like both. You can see the rubber just
Once again, it seems like it takes a lot of effort to drive a Mustang this slow.
Than it was
yeah,
before.
and you can see the silhouette of that suspect. I haven't seen what looks to be anyone else inside, but again, you can't see.
Well, they are driving on
it's really hard
the rims
to
on the front
but
tires,
look, we're
we
zooming up, and you
believe.
really see that rubber just flapping.
Yeah, Oregon, that was insane.
Those rims are really grinding that cement. And for a pursuit suspect like this, Patrick, this would be really hard to navigate this vehicle, right? I can imagine just how loud this is.
Well, yeah, and that's why he's barely.
How loud the grinding is.
The car is just barely being able to roll. He's down to the rims. You barely have any rubber left on him, and he's just riding out his last moments. You know, before
his last moments. Don't say that.
He's just going to open the doors and give up. And so there's just so much room for everybody to work with.
Hope he's found Jesus if it's his last moment.
When he did that one maneuver, but he didn't even make it off and stayed on the slow lane. So, yeah, he's just rolling now to the final point where he'll stop, and then we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Well, Patrick, even to that point about a possible foot bail situation or an attempt at an escape, it seems like that is incredibly unlikely, almost impossible.
I'm
given
fine.
the fact of where they are right
You okay
now
today,
on
bro?
the freeway, and given the number of law enforcement vehicles in pursuit, in a way, it goes back to your even earlier point about how this is even made a little bit easier, because the likelihood of any attempt to jump out seems unlikely, unless I'm wrong, and please tell us.
Yeah,
then that's a you're a pretty big loser if today's the best day ever for you.
Traffic also, because you know several pursuits that we've covered, you've seen where they jumped out and ran across traffic. So
it's really sad.
Ideally, they would like to even slow down the other side of the freeway, the northbound side. It looks like it has been slowing down a little bit, but you have that HOV or toll lane where they're moving pretty fast. So. They have
I had this dude in a political group I'm in.
Near that center
he was like making fun of like liberals for making politics their whole lives, and I'm like,
that's the last
you've
thing they wanted.
got Donald Trump's picture as your profile picture. I think it was holding the squirrel and the raccoon.
Those pursuits where the people just get out of the
We watched a little sad on MSNBC last night. We indulged in all kinds of. We even flipped over to Newsmax and watched them gloat a little bit. We got a little flavor of everything.
They're just simply trying to get away at that point. Do you think CHP will shut down those lanes anytime soon, or they're going to just continue to monitor at this point?
It's really sad
Yeah,
to see the way the right wingers react.
and that are directly
Like I've taken it in stride. You should see the thumbnail I made for
they
the
made the decision just to deal with this side of the freeway.
YouTube stream.
If something happens where he pops out, they could have a canine that's there.
Kamala concedes a lot. Come the fuck on. That's hilarious.
Plays out, but they've had plenty of
I
time
put her all
to
sad with Elon and
resources
Trump
they need to
smiling.
crime.
That's funny.
It seems like the vehicle's just barely even moving now, so we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, you can even notice from the zoomed out point of view that we have right now, that Leslie was mentioning earlier, the
it's
sort of flapping around. And
I said it before many times.
It really is barely moving. I mean, you
can it
in some cases you could walk or run just as fast as the vehicle is going.
The best thing for me in the Troll Patrol is for Trump to win.
And notice that right there.
There were so many content creators that rode the Trump wave the first time.
Perspectives rather
in terms of left-wing content.
When you have people trying to get
we do better under
stonewalled them
Republican administration.
Could be in the next few minutes, could be a while longer.
But I was for Harris for the good of the country.
It takes a while for them.
That's called putting, the country first.
Really, move.
How can you say mass deportation is going to be great? Yeah, if you believe there's going to be $1 gas,
open as quick as possible.
like you live in a fantasy world.
Yeah, this is a nightmare for CHP. The last thing CHP wants is their freeway shut down. They're good at what they do. They deal with traffic all the time. So in this situation,
I don't want to have to deal with Trump every day.
There's no shooting or nothing like that.
I'm tired of him already. I was ready to be over with
all that traffic moving. But the problem is, in this situation, if he decides to barricade
now
and not come out,
it's going to be every day. It's going to be every day again.
Go on until tomorrow morning.
I didn't get to live the whole Trump administration the first time as the Troll Patrol.
To this point.
I first started streaming in 2017, but it wasn't an actual show until 2020.
With their lives, but that's the unknown, and that's where in this situation, depending.
No, I'm totally tired of him.
Don't know if this
I'm ready to be over with.
It's a very serious.
Ready for him to be over with.
In that situation,
he's probably not going to make it through the full term.
And
he's a old man who craps himself now.
So you have, an armored vehicle where they can pull in front of this and they can stop this pursuit now, and then everybody can handle it from there. But right now, you just want to be behind it where the suspect's looking forward. All he sees is an empty freeway.
Do you think that should we stop giving aid to Ukraine? Do you think that Donald Trump is going to foster any kind of a program that'll put that money back in your pocket?
Is there any attempt
invest in America in any way
that we're looking at right now from CHP directly behind the suspect, or is this something that is just a pure?
We're still waiting on Infrastructure Week.
That person stops
from the first administration.
I'm not entirely sure how it would work in this situation, but is there any attempt at trying to communicate with the suspect, or are you just waiting until it ends before even that sort of thought crosses their mind?
It depends on what type of kidnapping it is. If it's a known suspect, then they would be trying to contact him the whole time. So they would try to get the phone number from family or
captured a Maynard,
whoever knows it, and then they would be between dispatch and the supervisors. And
what's Elon going to cut $2 trillion from?
Trying to convince him to, just pull over and give up, and they would have crisis negotiators that could be involved also. So it really just depends, but sometimes you have someone that pulls.
Every time the Dems lose, people say shit like that when the Super Balls, and it never happens.
Where they just have no idea who this guy is, and they have no.
Stop wishful thinking and work within the paradigm that we have.
We're going to keep you here on the line. I just want to get some of our viewers up to speed since we have hit the 8 o'clock hour here on KCAL News. If you're just joining us right now, we are currently monitoring this pursuit of a possible kidnapping suspect happening here on the 405.
Damn, look at all those headlights backed up.
22.
This is the 405.
645, right on the 605-5 interchange. At some point, spike strips were deployed.
Guy comment, I don't know.
We know that the car has.
I'm in fine spirits.
definitely ran through those spike strips, but because you can see them down to the rim there, you can see a lot.
It's not like I was invested in Harris as a candidate. Like I don't.
I mean,
go all in for candidates.
An hour, this car now.
It was a vote I cast. It had utility.
And at some point going 5 miles an hour, and
it's not
has come to an
too many people make politics their personality, and they should not say that as somebody who does a political show.
Vacillated between high-end speeds and potentially 2025, and then.
But like who you vote for isn't who you are as a person.
On top of all those details Leslie was just giving out, it's also turned into what you noticed there on screen was a traffic incident as well, because despite the fact that this is a very slow pursuit, something that CHP seems to be very much on
but that is also
with a light.
What I'm talking about in the
that
horrible parasocial relationship between politicians and their followers.
This was a pursuit.
That's exactly what Trump was able to harness in order to
the 405 in about the last 20 to 25
ride a wave to power again.
And the longer it goes, the more that's going to become an issue in terms of backing up even further.
Sycophants.
Way. So if you even had plans on jumping on there anytime soon, if you're still at home, that might be something to avoid in the very near future, because right now
without the circus, I don't have any content.
Shut off and shut down until this pursuit ends. So on top of all that, we continue to monitor the situation, and we also have retired Police Sergeant Patrick O'Malley.
Sky Comment, we're here for you.
To fill us in, give us some more perspective, more details on what's going on here. And Patrick, as you were mentioning before, this is really just a waiting game right now, correct? Is this just something where it could end in the next 5 minutes, maybe the next 15, or even in a possible long case scenario, could go into tomorrow morning if it turns into something?
Could go into tomorrow morning.
Sort of waiting it in.
Yeah, exactly. These aren't our most exciting pursuits. You know, a lot of people like the exciting ones that have lots of drama and excitement, but this one looks like this is how it's going to play out. So this is, you know, until...
I mean, I like it. I do not discriminate against police pursuits, because who knows what could happen in this one.
You know, the CHP or the police officers.
It's the unpredictability that really gets me.
Are getting other resources.
You know, there's not
to make a different move.
Very good odds that something crazy is going to happen because of the situation we're in. But that could change at any minute.
It's not as exciting as normal.
Yeah, and you know, we know many of the times it's a sergeant making those calls. I'm sure you've called many of these pursuits in your career. But people watching this may be asking, why not a pit maneuver right now?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, everybody always says, well, why not just pull right in front of them? Why not?
That's what I thought about not doing troll patrol content tonight, but I feel like that would be a dereliction of my duty.
Maneuver, but they can't ram
That's a duty.
They can't get in front of a vehicle.
There's a lot of news to cover.
Due to the dangers that are involved. And in this situation, it seems so simple to put a car in front. But to put a car in front of this car, you have to have an officer inside of it, and then that brings them into the line of fire if this suspect was armed. So they just want to keep him facing forward. When you do a pit, all the officers...
The cats are taking over my desk.
It takes 2, 3, 4 officers to do it correctly, because one hits the bumper and then they keep on going. The other officers, pull their vehicles up and conduct.
Glad to be here with you, Sky Comment.
In whatever direction.
We're going to do normal show tonight. Find out what that news be doing.
In the situation, they want him facing away, just in case this is an armed kidnapping.
We'll try to keep politics to like the first 30 minutes. We'll move on. We'll do crime stories and shit.
Some officers that are pulling up now. There's some different types of vehicles, so they may have something in plan a plan in place that they try to bring this to an end a little sooner than keeping this going at 2 miles an hour. So we'll just have to see.
And one of the other things you were mentioning to us earlier, Patrick, was the fact that this allows officers a benefit.
I've had Maynard just yelling.
Because you're right in the sense that
yelling all day.
Quote unquote, an exciting pursuit by typical standards here in Southern California. This is something that allows them to have a strong hold on the situation, because we've been able to maintain this vehicle even from SkyCal, from our chopper, incredibly easily. So I can only imagine with the number of law enforcement vehicles in pursuit, this has been a very manageable tactical situation for them.
Yeah, for sure. And you have probably numerous police departments involved also with CHP, sheriff's departments as well. So whatever resources they need, they already have in place. So you'll have officers on the other side of the freeway that are in place just in case something, ends up going on that side. You'll have officers that are already in place on the off ramps and the on ramps. We saw that you have the police helicopter up above, so you just have everything in place perfectly, and you got plenty of time.
Too big of a coward, alien.
And then just
never could do that.
Yeah, and Patrick, we know that this suspect possibly.
I don't know what the situation would have to be to force me to choose.
Now, we don't know the details of that kidnapping, where the victim is, what happened to the victim. We are waiting to hear more from CHP. But does this give you any indication that this, every suspect that leads police on a pursuit is serious?
Mindy, good evening.
This just seems like, police may be thinking this person.
We, like leftists, usually don't come out good on the other side of a
some sort
conflict.
Of way. Just the amount of CHP officers is really making me question that.
The government that
for sure.
result from armed conflict usually
I think it was Santa Fe
aren't the best.
Springs, which is LA County Sheriff's Department.
A lot of people didn't make it through Trump.
And
that is one of the things that fascinates me is how
it just depends.
He was able to maintain such support
to handle it on their own
when so many of his supporters had to die during the 2020 debacle with COVID.
And I do see some of the CHP vehicles, so
you would have thought that there was
but as you mentioned that, I do see
some
I can't make
diminishment of the numbers.
But one of those vehicles said police, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It stood out compared to the other ones. And right now we're maintaining an eye on the suspect's vehicle. They're getting a little dark, but otherwise you can easily point it out in the spotlight there over top as well. But to Leslie's point earlier, Patrick, it's the persistence. It's that's what I think is so striking to us so far, is the fact that that dichotomy of the fact that it's such a quote unquote easy pursuit to handle because the suspect is going so slow, and it makes managing it so easy, but also the
one thing that we can say is that during the 4 years of his administration the first time,
there's a friction there that I think
when Democrats actually got organized somewhat,
of course, obviously
inspired a lot of people to run for office.
Ongoing, despite a vehicle that a lot of people would
got a lot of new blood involved in the process.
Incredibly slow.
But yeah, and in normal pursuits, you know how adrenaline.
Well, look at what the fruits of that were.
A lot of these officers get very high on the adrenaline. They got to, refer back to their training and their experience in the termination points of pursuits.
That's part of it, Sky Comet.
They don't have a lot of adrenaline as this pursuit goes on, so they have to stay very aware and on their toes in terms of
stepping aside and having an open primary and a campaign that was fully formed
and going on at 5 miles an hour or less for so long.
Not like what was 100 days
until you're getting to the end. So I just the way that it's playing out though with CHP involved. CHP does not like to have things drag on. So the last thing they want is a freeway that's completely shut down like this. So it just leads me to believe.
But I don't fear him not wanting to leave office this time.
They don't want to end this with a pit maneuver. So that's why they're letting this ride out how they have been doing it for so long.
Because I feel like he's not even going to make it through that turn. Like he's so old.
The officers and the safety of maybe the other people there on.
And again, also getting the best health care in the world, paid for by our tax dollars. A criminal
looks like it's
grifter.
Coming to a stop, but every time we think it is, the driver just keeps going, chugging along. But what would maybe
I felt, and I said it at the time, the race we deserved was Rand Paul versus Bernie Sanders. That's what 2016 should have been, absent this shit show.
Now. So, especially if there's a weapon involved. If he comes to a complete stop, then it's going to be like some of the pursuits we've seen before, where they are just going to wait for him to come out. They have many other resources to force him out of the vehicle at that point in time. But when it gets to that point, their hope is that he just puts his hands up, opens the door, and exits the vehicle, and he's taken into custody. An ideal thing that could happen upcoming, which we could.
I mean, Joe Biden was the one who ultimately it was his decision whether to run or not, and he stubbornly ran.
So that he's just running on simply all rims. But that's just, it's hard. They could do it, But they also have all the police vehicles spread all the way across the freeway, so they'd have to get somebody, put it out there and then also get.
I can't imagine it. Can a brump?
One of the things.
Like, why do you support mass deportation? Like, that doesn't sound Nazi as fuck to you.
Obviously,
and you don't think that eventually they would come for you. That's the thing.
Point out or notice that potential kidnapping victim in the car as well. But it's worth repeating for people at home that the reason that this.
You don't think they will find a way to come for you?
Maneuvers and about the tactical.
Yeah. Illegal is the key. That's what the Germans said as well.
Is that
like, how do you think this shit starts?
Is the reason why this is not done yet, because you have to manage their safety, officer safety, and everything else.
Asylum seekers are coming legally, and that's the majority of the people you're wanting to deport.
Having that weapon pointed toward officers as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I haven't been able to make any calls.
I mean, it's masked, man. You're masking your fascism.
Like you said, if you can just imagine, that there's
Latinos tend to be conservative, which is amazing that the Republicans don't actually try to court them and be nice to them.
So, that could be the other reason why they don't want to get this.
But amazingly enough, they voted on abortion.
Some type of accident or end up
because they're pro-life.
So, this is like we had talked about before. This is like a dream scenario to let run out until the vehicle will no longer move or it runs out of gas. And then they will move on to their next step in terms of taking the suspect into custody.
Yeah, many times we see these vehicles continue to go. I know we've covered pursuits that will last hours, and it never matters how many tires are still functioning. The car will continue.
I promise you I won't. You won't be. Patrick, it's exactly like every fucking time.
Do you think
Republicans always crash the economy? They go out of office completely unpopular, and then people like fucking forget that George W. Bush was horrible.
A good scenario.
That Trump was horrible.
Law enforcement and allowing them to plan. Are they able to negotiate with this suspect right now? Do you think that's something that they're already doing if they're able to get a hold of them?
Yeah, that's the key. And it's entirely possible they've been talking to him this whole time, and that he's just, talking as he's driving and saying, no, he's not going to give up, and saying, whatever his next move is. Or
you mean all three branches, only one of them is a house.
The vehicle maybe, it might not have license plates on it for them to figure out where it's registered to and send officers there to talk to family and try to get information that way. There's just so many variables that are involved.
Yeah, that's the thing that annoys me about like idiots like you voting for Trump.
Resources that they can use to try to
is that he's going to come in, take office in February, or take office in January, and by February, he's going to say, hey, crime is at historic lows. The stock market is at historic highs. We produce more oil than we've ever did. I made America great again. Boom. And you're all going to believe it, even though those are things that are currently true.
On those facts.
And of course, we are going to continue to keep an eye on this, as you are as well. Patrick O'Malley, retired police sergeant, giving us some time tonight. We want to pause you for a second because we want to shift the perspective a little bit here as we continue to monitor the situation, because it's turning into, or rather has turned into, a traffic nightmare as well.
Yeah, many people stuck in this traffic right now, and our very own Michelle Julie is also stuck in that traffic. Michelle, can you hear me?
Hey, Leslie. Hi, Gio. When I looked up and saw what I thought were...
Just talk to somebody who's stuck in traffic.
I called, of course, the assignment desk, figuring that there must be something going on ahead of me. We had kind of traffic had ground to a halt there right at the 605 and the 405. And in fact, I was then notified about this slow pursuit happening ahead of me. So I'm, amongst hundreds of other drivers moving very, very slowly, like 2-3 miles an hour on the 405.
Michelle, where are you on the 405 right now?
So I just, within the last 60 seconds or so...
How are you going to learn if you're asking me, why am I burning Portland?
So I
I am nowhere near Portland, you dumbass.
Onto the 22.
So I can't possibly be burning.
Lucky enough to be in that lane and able to get over, or for that matter, I guess you can, on the far right, you can get into the onto the 22. We are now free of the 405. The
Democrats are you. You talk like you're a fucking third grader. This is the problem with the country, is that
red lights as far as you
most of the country is fucking stupid.
So I wasn't stuck in it too long, but
And thanks to the fracture in media and the capitalistic incentive, there are outlets that just pop up to confirm your biases and just tell you what you want to hear.
That SkyCal zoomed out and showed the incredibly long line.
There was only two, Alien. The third guy, he was a sovereign citizen that thought he had every right to carry a gun. And he made a video talking about how much he loved Trump and sucked him
on a major
off.
holiday, on a major commute, on Labor Day or Thanksgiving or Christmas. And in fact, it's a pursuit that's not typical.
I have a story about an arrest, M. Lord, but I'm sure Portland isn't burning.
It's going at about 5, if not less than that right now. And I was pulling up the map as well while you were talking.
Yes, you are indeed stupid. You are a stupid person. Right-wingers are morons.
But otherwise, you are stuck for a significantly long amount of time there on the 405 while this is still going, and there doesn't seem to be any indication that it's ending anytime.
Yeah, didn't Portland burn down in 2020?
Before we let you go here, were you close enough at all to see how many CHP officers were there on the ground?
No, it was something from last night, M. Lord.
too far back. But the other issue, of course, is everyone now is bailing, trying to
Because there's a lot of stupid people? Why did you vote for Trump?
To get off the freeway and try and take surface streets are severely impacted.
T-minus, welcome in.
Do we have the issue on the freeway, but all those
Like, I can't explain why a grifter con man
so far back that I
is appealing to
see
you.
any flashing lights. But when I looked on my map, I did see red for.
Other than it's like to own the, it makes liberals mad. It doesn't improve the country.
So I thought I'd get right past it, but then as soon as
But like it makes the people you don't like cry. That seems to be the modus operandi for right
It's going to
wingers.
take a long time. And Michelle, being on the ground.
Do you?
Have reported
I don't.
countless.
I don't think right wingers give a shit about the Constitution. Not Trump certainly doesn't.
See these vehicles continue to chug along. We know this.
Trump literally said, "Take the guns first, due process second." That's a direct quote.
But not unusual, is it?
But yet you think he is pro Second Amendment because whatever media you watch told you he was. But it doesn't matter what he actually believes because you don't have principles. It's just
the suspect to comply, and I thought
he's a meme candidate.
How long is that going to take, and how much further will the backup?
Democrats didn't tell me they were going to raise my taxes.
Back into LA County.
Yeah, Michelle Geely, one of the
And you are indeed dumb.
being able to jump on the 22 there before getting stuck in that 405 even further. Michelle, we thank you so much for calling us. We know you're always on top of it, and it's so good to get your perspective there, especially because you were stuck in that 405 for a little
No, my taxes went up under Trump because he ended multiple provisions that I was using as a small business owner. So,
And as we bring in now retired Police Sergeant Patrick O'Malley back as we continue to keep an eye on this pursuit. This angle, Patrick, we've been talking so far about how you can notice both of the front tires basically just.
Are we actually coming to a
There was
stop?
something else I wanted to ask you about earlier because, we've noticed this vehicle sort of occasionally try to pick up and ramp up its speed before it very quickly slowing back down to what we're noticing there. But look, there's the passenger right there. You see in the seat there, almost knocking.
See a passenger.
Yeah, it almost looked like they were knocking on the window or at least maybe drawing some attention. But now you can.
There
actually
does
make
seem to
out
be somebody in the
that there is
passenger
someone
seat.
there.
Again, we don't know if this is for sure a kidnapping victim, but we do know this is a situation involving a kidnapping.
But ultimately, the point here and the concern, at least from my perspective, Patrick,
it is amazing that the rear tires do seem to still be
intact.
intact.
A vehicle will lose a tire, or they'll be driving on their rims, but still try to go at a significantly high speed, and then that's where the friction comes in. That's where the sparks come in, and we know what happens when you have friction like that. It
Yeah, not only did we want to end Trump's tax cuts, we wanted higher taxes.
So, you know,
across the board on capital gains, on corporate taxes, on the top income brackets.
Pace and try to take off here.
Yeah, and it is kind of odd that they're going this slow because, you know, with the full air in both rear tires and this rear-wheel drive fast vehicle, he could be going much faster. So for whatever reason that he's going this slow,
it seems like we're coming to a stop.
Seeing that person in the passenger seat, I thought I saw someone in there before, but I wasn't sure. But that kind of explains.
What do you mean, what more? The corporate tax rate under Eisenhower in the 50s was over 90%.
Let the vehicle ride.
It resulted in the greatest expansion of the middle class ever in the history of the country. You've gotten your tax cuts for 50 years, and what has it gotten you? It's got you a boom-bust cycle.
You know, all the different.
You got your tax cuts and your deregulations. You've wrecked the economy multiple times.
We do have an answer.
The rich have gotten richer. The poor have gotten poorer. The middle class has all but disappeared.
Just let you know that a call to 911 came in.
50 years of trying the same thing, and you want to keep doing it?
It was the kidnapping.
It's like the kid that called in the other day. What, he was 22 or something, and he was like, "Well, when you give money to rich people," I'm like, "That's trickle down economics."
At the
even George H.W. Bush thought that was stupid.
We don't for sure know if that is the kidnapping victim. We believe it possibly is, but how much does that then heighten a pursuit? And
you think there's going to be cuts
going to make
for you? That's hilarious.
Well, it just explains everything that we've been discussing. You know, when you look at everything that's been going on, it was kind of easy to guess, you know, that those were the facts, but, you know, we don't want to speculate also. But you could just tell by the way the police were treating this, you know, to have a free.
Apparently, companies are already importing more goods,
being blocked
in anticipation of tariffs.
Time with this one, and based on that, which if a family
which Trump does not understand how they work,
kidnapping. So in that situation, then they know the suspects, probably know the suspect's identity. They know his name. Obviously, now we have several cell phones that are in the car also. So, you know,
the Dow reached record highs multiple times under Biden.
If you bring a weapon into play also, you know, that just, it makes it that much more complex. So that's why they're just going to let this ride out, and hopefully, if they're in communication with him, they can convince him to just, you know, turn off the car and step out, and then they can resolve whatever happened from there. Because a lot of times in, you know, domestic situations, it's not actual kidnapping.
I don't understand what you think that's a
willingly, and then they wanted to change the story and
indicator of
because the family didn't like the other person. However, it plays out. So
go invest into True Social.
Who people are and the exact facts, but that's why the police are treating it this way, and they're just going to let it keep riding out.
Yeah, right now that vehicle is going, you could easily argue, the slowest we've seen this entire, pardon me, this entire last hour or so since we've been keeping an eye on it here on air. You almost get a look at the license plate there as well, but you know,
like one of those very distinctive license plates, you know, maybe one of those specialized ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Though I mean, ultimately, it's
hard
just
to make out.
It is hard to make out, but even more so the fact that this car is just there's nothing you can do in terms of just anything.
It's just gonna keep crawling along. I can't believe we watched it this whole time.
In the passenger seat, you know, the driver's right there, and it's just snailing along.
It looks like that driver there is wearing either glasses or sunglasses.
Notice some sort of it looked like sunglasses, though. Again, hard to tell. From just a few minutes ago when I first noticed them as well.
It does look like sunglasses there, but you can't really make out the passenger, although we do know there's someone sitting there. this has really it does really explain what we have seen, Patrick. But when you think about what maybe this person may be going through, you know, what a scary situation. Your family called 911 on your behalf. So you just wonder just how much danger is that person in?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Because if you look at this car also, I don't know, it looked maybe like a Nevada plate. So a lot of times rental cars have out-of-state plates. So, you know, did somebody pick up a rental car and then have the intentions of going to kidnap somebody?
Wow.
Those are all things that we will learn, you know, as the days roll on and the person is taken into custody. But, yeah, I mean, if it's 100% legit.
Do I own stocks? No.
And, you know, the person was armed and took this person against their will, then, you know, this is a very, very serious situation. And that's why you see so many police officers behind it, and why they just keep letting it roll out. Now you can see all the spectators and everybody else that wants to be a part of it as well, which brings in other variables that, you know, you got to keep everybody safe, and the last thing you want is spectators or the looking.
What's their balls? You crack me up.
Well, and this is sort of the irony of a pursuit like this, as it looks like the vehicle, it looks like it's at a complete.
It looks
stop.
like it's at a stop, but who can tell?
Slowest moving we've ever seen it at this point.
No, you're right. It's at a complete stop right now.
Complete stop right now. So now you see officers exit.
We now have ourselves a standoff situation.
Cautiously. It almost looks, and Leslie, please tell me if it looks like they have weapons drawn.
It does, yeah.
Oh, they totally have weapons drawn.
Right now, it looks like maybe they're giving out commands, and that would be the case right now, right, Patrick?
Yeah, so this is the termination point, or hopefully the final termination point, and then this is a felony traffic stop. And so this is how CHP and police officers are trained to conduct felony traffic stops, and this is where the supervisor on scene they'll have deadly force, they'll have non-lethal force, bean bags and other things like that. They probably have a canine. The police vehicle that is involved in
you have a hand out the window.
So that's why he was there. And yeah, I think it is because you can see it on the side of the door. So then that's what his vehicle is. So they have the dog there also. Yeah, so they'll just have everybody set up and they'll start making their commands to exit the vehicle. And so far, it looks like the driver has his hands out of the vehicle, so hopefully this will end peacefully.
Yeah,
all that.
Open that driver's side door, and it looks like they're going to attempt to get out slowly, but you wonder if that is the passenger,
all that for nothing,
opening their door. But if that is the kidnapping,
such an uneventful chase.
You know, police want to make
so let down.
Both get out safely and take one into custody. Take a look. You can see what we believe maybe the driver.
Yeah, who knows if there was a switch, but it looks like that is the suspect there exiting the vehicle, hands up in the air, and potentially the victim on the other side there. Looks like it's a female passenger.
Here's the thing, that suspect is really walking a lot. He's now holding that victim, embracing that victim.
Well,
I should take that back. Hugging that woman there, the passenger. We don't know yet if it is the kidnapping victim, but take a look. It looks like they're now talking.
Yeah. And he has his hands up.
The driver does
backward.
have their hands up. Yeah.
She's wiping her face right now. It almost seems like the significant emotion in this situation right now as she backs away from him.
Looks like she's talking to someone on the phone as well. That may be law enforcement giving her commands on what to do.
And an end to what has been an incredibly chaotic situation so far, this last hour and a half. But to Patrick's point earlier, that this seems to be the final steps as we put a bow on what's been a very chaotic, crazy situation, a slow speed pursuit, now finally coming to an end here on the 405 as the suspect now seemingly stepping back, getting on the ground, and
it was a 21-mile pursuit.
Finally able to get that suspect into handcuffs. This is the moment CHP officers have been waiting for almost 2 hours now. And you can see it looks like they're not treating her as a suspect, so I can believe that maybe that is the kidnapping victim there. And you can see she's wiping away some tears. She's speaking to that CHP officer. But wow, Gio, we don't see that often where the suspect then embraces.
It was an armed man who kidnapped, that's his ex-girlfriend you saw.
Backed off.
Kidnapped her from her workplace in El Monte.
On the line.
Happened around 6 p.m. on Saturday. The woman reported her ex-boyfriend arrived at her place of work. The man appeared distraught, was armed with a firearm when he got into an argument with the woman, which escalated when he forced her into her own car and drove away.
And
the El Monte Police Department said in a Sunday statement, using the Find My iPhone app, the woman's friend alerted law enforcement and shared the victim's location. The vehicle was located by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department helicopter on the 5 freeway near Bandini exit. And California Highway Patrol was alerted. The vehicle was located by CHP officers, and the driver refused to stop, leading multiple officers on a 21-mile pursuit. It ended when spike strips were used to puncture the vehicle's tires. After a slow-speed pursuit, the driver yielded around 8:33 p.m. Cars behind the pursuit were held back by police. A massive traffic jam on the southbound 405 started to clear after the suspect surrendered. The woman was safely recovered without injury. The suspect was taken into custody on suspicion of kidnapping and felony evading.
Over to the 405, and at one point,
greetings, Lenny,
deployed, and then at that point, we were watching a very developing pursuit, a car inching forward, traffic backed up for seemingly miles, and evolving into a potentially domestic situation.
Apparently, Donald Trump was a popular candidate with lady voters. Explain that one to me.
Up and taking a look at this.
Very dangerous situation there. Well, we know this is going to take a while for CHP to move all their vehicles as well as the suspect's vehicle, but you saw it there. One person taken into custody, what we believe is maybe the kidnapping victim. Taken away safely, and you can see what is left now on the 405, this long line of traffic. Hopefully CHP, their goal is always to get the freeways moving again, so they're going to try to wrap this up as quick as possible to get traffic flowing again. But that was a pretty wild pursuit ending here on the 405 South.
And we'll continue to monitor the traffic situation as it evolves through the rest of the night. This is not the last you'll hear of it. We want to thank retired Police Sergeant Patrick O'Malley for your time. Patrick, thank you so much. We appreciate the insight. We appreciate your time on this Saturday.
No, Trump lost ground with several groups, including
well, moving on to
white people, including people making over 400 grand. It's very weird. I feel like I can't leave you on that one because it was, not a lot of action. So let me give you one with action. We've already watched this one, but it's a quick one.
Where we are. There you go. You got one unit kind of getting up behind them right there. We're staying a little high up because we got the LAPD ship behind us, but we're going to keep an eye on it.
Did you just vote for a billionaire, you dipshit?
If this thing comes to an end, it's going to be under a tree or behind a tree because that is my signature ending. So keeping an eye on it right now.
That's what he does to all the women.
Tight. You know what? This person's actually, and I've heard the word she a couple of times. Now, I'm not going to just go with she. I'm just going to be the suspect behind the wheel.
It is a she.
Oh. And that is the end of that. Maybe. Okay, doors are open, drivers out on the run. It definitely is a she right there, and making that run right there, keeping it moving along. LAPD.
She got away as far as we know. They might have caught her by now.
Lady can run. And okay, all right.
The passenger was apprehended.
So keeping an eye on it right now, getting really tight. You know what? This person's actually, and I've heard the word she a couple of times. Now, I'm not going to just go with she. I'm just going to be the suspect behind the wheel. Whoa! Oh! And that is the end of that. Maybe. Okay, doors are open, drivers out on the run. It definitely is a she right there, and making that run right there, keeping it moving along. LAPD, I don't know.
He apparently did not do any better with the black community.
Okay, all right.
But it's still too early to make assumptions about the data. We'll need a few more days, maybe weeks.
There she is. You just missed a really wicked crash. It was a pursuit. It was up here in the Pico Union area. There she is, good, climbing over a fence right there. Now that's an armed robbery suspect. LAPD, the helicopter up overhead, still calling out the locations. We're going to try to keep with it. Well, that's the end of that. Can't keep much with it.
There is the passenger. Both of them ran into this apartment building, but only the passenger was.
Look at them all, just coming out of nowhere. Now there was a crash
apprehended
at an intersection nearby, a major intersection. Those officers now running into this apartment building. That's where things get a little bit dangerous, not because we can't see it, but because you've got those.
So once again, the driver still on the loose, as far as I know.
Into a standoff.
When I checked the other day, this didn't happen but like a week ago.
Following this vehicle, it was a pursuit. We thought we heard a little bit there that
the passenger was apprehended.
Moving around very
insane crash. You can see the aftermath
with all the front end damage and the smoke. That is the suspect's vehicle, and it crashed into that innocent car right there. It was a hard T-bone right at that intersection. Hopefully those people are okay. The drivers was a hard T-bone right at that intersection. Hopefully those people are okay. The driver's side door is open. Now LAPD, you can see my signature.
Watch it one more time.
So keeping an eye on it right now. It's getting really tight. You know what? This person's actually, and I've heard the word she a couple of times. Now I'm not going to just go with she. I'm just going to be suspect. The suspect behind the wheel. Getting. Whoa! Oh! And that is the end.
It was a hard hit.
Maybe. Okay, doors are open. Drivers out on
definitely
the run.
Destroyed the radiator.
She right there and making that run right there, keeping it moving along. LAPD, I don't know if
I am going to hop off and let you guys go because it's about time for me to get ready for the actual show that I do at 8 o'clock. We find out what that news be doing. Here's a basset hound going on its first walk. What are you talking about? I'm going to be right back in like 2 hours. I'm leaving to go get ready for the actual show. I got to put some work into it. Don't do anything